phrases.
A bowl.
Could be a bowl, huh? Could be a vase. Could be a teapot. Could be a big mug. Okay? Could be anything. It's a ball of potential. And we're going to throw it right down on the center of the wheel here. And if you have all the years of experience that I do, you still might be a really lousy shot. But that's okay. You can just kind of smush it over into the center. What you want to do is kind of get it as much in the center of the wheel as you can to begin with, because it's just going to help you when we turn the wheel on. And when we turn the wheel on to center the clay, we're going to turn it as fast as it'll go, because that makes it easier. Now, this is all lumpy, bumpy, uneven right now. What we want is a nice, smooth, uniform lump of clay here on the wheel. Once we get that, it's centered. And we don't do anything else until we get to that point. There's one rule I have tonight. Do not move to step 2 until I tell you that you're ready to move to step 2, okay? So, we center the clay by doing 2 things. I'm going to push this clay up into a cone, and then I'm going to push it back down. Okay? I'm going to put my hands one on either side of the clay, and I'm just going to squeeze that clay till it comes up. Okay? What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to dig under with my little fingers on this, because I will pull the clay right off the wheel. It's all side-to-side motion. And once I get it up here, I'm going to push the clay back down. I'm going to find the center of the clay kind of with this meaty part of my fist here, and this hand is going to catch the clay. Maybe a good idea to put your first finger in between your knuckle here for position, because a lot of times beginners want to put this hand down too low, but it should be in contact with your other hand. Put it right there. And we'll bring that clay back down. And you just keep repeating that process. When you cone the clay, you're also going to have to put a little bit of pressure here with your thumbs to keep the clay from getting a hole in the center of the cone. If you get a hole in the center of your cone, it's okay, just don't close it off. If you close it off, it's going to create problems later. Okay? So if you get a big deep hole in your cone, say, "Mark, I'm going to hole my cone." Okay? And I'll come over and fix it for you. Okay. Okay. What do you guys think? How's it looking? Does that look centered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want everybody to come over here, put your hand in the water, and put your hand on the clay and tell me if you can feel any movement on the clay. Okay? Anna, you go first.
I can feel some lumps.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can feel it moving back and forth. Liz?
Yes.
Feel it moving, vibrating a little bit. Okay. Okay. Everybody, you don't have to wait and do it one at a time. We can have multiple hands in here. So, we have hands on this side. I just want you guys to feel how the clay is and how it's still wobbling a little bit. Okay? So this clay is not quite centered. Okay? It's not ready for step 2. Now I'd like you all to feel this again. Right here, okay? Feel the difference. Okay. So this is now centered.
Like butter.
This bottom part is got a little wobble to it. Let me stick that. So you get that off.
Oh yeah?
See the difference? Okay? So until you feel that, you're not ready to move on to step number 2. Anybody want to tell me what step number 2 is going to be? You watch that show, so you don't miss it. Huh?
The shape, no?
No, don't shape it yet. What are we going to do? Go ahead. Sheila? What do you think?
Make it
No idea. What does every vessel need?
Make it more.
The base.
Does every
The
vessel?
hole.
Aha.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. We're going to put a hole in this. Okay. Every vessel needs a hole. So you're going to take your left hand and put it on the clay here, just resting, not doing anything. But it's going to provide support for these 2 fingers on your right hand. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to slide these fingers to the center of the clay. You're going to feel the point where your fingers aren't moving at all. They're sitting in one spot. And when you find that spot, you're going to push down. Okay? Once you get a little bit of a depression, put a little water in there to lubricate it. And we're just going to keep pushing that hole down. You may notice that I'm not really looking at the clay. I find it easier to do this by feel than by looking at it. Because you can feel when your fingers are right in the center and you can feel when they're wobbling a little bit. Now we have a hole in the clay. Next thing I have to do is I have to decide now what it is I'm going to make. Because what I plan to make is going to determine the size of the base of my piece. Okay? And if I'm throwing something wide, I'm going to open this hole quite a bit. If I'm throwing something narrow and tall, I'm not going to open it much more than it already is. Tonight I'm going to show you guys how to throw a bowl. Okay? So I'm going to open this about twice the size it is now. What I'm doing is, you notice this hand is still in the same position it was before. But now I'm using these 2 fingers, my middle 2 fingers. I use these 2 fingers for the hole. Now I'm using my middle 2 fingers to drag straight across the bottom. So I get a nice flat bottom. So now I have a bowl. Right? I'm done, right? It's perfect. What's wrong with it?
The outside.
Besides, it's not very pretty. What's wrong with it? It's really thick, isn't it? Yeah. So what we need to do is thin these walls out. And we do that by what we call pulling the walls up. Okay? Everybody do this for me. Like a fist. There you go. Okay. We're going to use the fleshy part of our finger here and this knuckle on the outside of the clay. And we're going to use these 2 fingers on the inside of the clay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze together at the bottom, about the pressure I might use if I was going to squeeze a fairly soft grape and make it pop. Okay? And I'm going to very slowly is the key word here. Usually people want to do this too fast. And if you do it too fast, it's going to compromise the integrity of the structure of the pot. Watch how slowly my hands are moving up, okay? I'm just going to squeeze at the bottom, slowly lift my hands, and as I'm lifting, I'm reducing that pressure. I'm letting go of that pressure as I'm coming up. And the reason I'm doing that is if I keep the same pressure all the way to the top, it's going to be really thin at the top and too thick at the bottom. And what I want are uniform walls. Now you'll see what I'm making here is a cylinder. It's not a bowl yet. I'm not pulling these walls this way to make a bowl. I'm pulling them straight up and down. Every piece of pottery begins as a cylinder. And then once we have our cylinder, we shape it. One more time. Again, pay attention to how slowly my hands are moving up the sides here. And you can also see this ridge of clay that's coming up. Like a shelf of clay that I am pulling up the wall of the cylinder. Now we have our cylinder. Not much of a bowl at this point. So now we have to open out those sides, make it a bowl shape. We have two tools. I don't have a wooden nib here. I don't know what to do.
Sorry.
Thank you. Two tools. One is a wooden rib, which is this tool, and this is good for making straight-sided bowls. And what you do is, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it at an angle here. If you can't see from where you're standing, come around. I'm going to put it at an angle so the clay is kind of sliding off of it. Okay? I'm going to put the point of it down at the bottom here, and I'm going to angle the top a little bit away from the wall of the clay. And I'm going to use those same two fingers that I used to pull the wall of the walls up. And I'm going to just push the clay out onto this rib. And I just keep going all the way to the top. And you see how I had to move my rib up just a little bit because I don't want the clay to go over the top of the rib. Slow this wheel down. You notice I've slowed my wheel down quite a bit. Okay, we do that after we put the after we open the hole of the that we've made. The reason is we've got this open walled vessel now. If I make this wheel go fast, the centrifugal force is just going to pull this thing open and apart. So we have to slow the wheel down so that doesn't happen. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did. We only do this a little bit at a time. You'll notice I'm putting water on the clay. You don't want to overdo it, but anytime you feel the clay pulling against your skin, or the tool that you're using, you need to put a little bit of water on there. Say use it judiciously. If you use too much water, you're going to make your clay too soft and it won't stand up. And we'll do this one more time. Now, I could probably do this a couple more times to make this wider, but now I'm going to show you guys how to make a rounded side. And to do that, we use this tool. You put your fingers on the back of it and you push your thumb in the center to create the curve that you want. Okay? And I'm going to hold this exactly at the same angles that I held the other rib. You start down at the bottom here. Just push that curve, that wall out onto the curve. And again, I'm going to have to move my rib up a little bit as I come up, so that it keeps contact with the bowl. Again, we're only doing a little bit at a time. Anytime we do too much at once, we're going to stress the integrity of the clay. Okay. You see how now we have curved sides on our bowl. More of a rounded bowl. Maybe a little too wide for the softness of this clay. This clay is a little tricky in that it's not a real strong clay.